Let's begin. My name is Vasilis Moskovos. I'm a solutions architect and expert in XTM. And today our webinar is going to be in the form of a story. We will be seeing how XTM can provide a holistic view of the automation in your localization processes. So let's go over the agenda. So essentially today we'll see how a company can use the advanced automations created by our XTM connectors to have a consolidated and centralized localization process through powerful automations using 3 of our connectors from our extensive list. We're going to be using XTM Cloud, Sitecore, and HubSpot to push content to XTM and deliver it back into those CMSs. So with that, you will see that XTM provides you with a holistic approach of all your localization requirements in one system, in one consolidated TMS. And this is due to the powerful automation capabilities of XTM, allowing you to connect multiple CMSs and PIMs or PIMs into one TMS, utilizing powerful technology like translation memory, terminology, integrated CAD tool, all in one tool, and allowing you to use that powerful connectivity to perform all the organization requirements in one system. So starting from that, we can proceed on to our story. So Q&A will take place after this. So we start with a company, let's call her Acme, let's call it Acme, and that company needs to push content from their websites onto a TMS or translation unit. Let's say that before that, that company was not using one TMS, and their localization process was, let's say, basic. They wouldn't be using any translation memories or terminologies. They will simply outsource any content to be translated or localized into external resources, either LSPs or freelancers. And now they want to move on to the next step and become modern, accept a more modern approach to a localization process. And in that case, they would choose one TMS, offering them multiple capabilities and options to connect multiple of their CMSs into one system. So they would have requirement for Sitecore content to be sent over for localization, AM content, and HubSpot. So let's start with Sitecore. The XTM Sitecore connector is one of our oldest connectors as well. It's been around for many years. And essentially, you only need to get a pack to install that on your Sitecore system. Installation takes place in the desktop. Once you receive the pack from our support team, you come into the development tools, install pack here. As you can see, there will be an existing pack already. If that's existing, you simply update that to the latest version. Once that is installed, the XTM connector lives in Sitecore here, giving you the options to create new projects, view the existing projects you have already created in your system, as you can see here. And it works by getting templates from the system. So as you can see here, you can get XTM templates. You also have options for documentation, and you can exclude some of the fields for translation. Now, this is also important because this is where the automation takes place and it kicks in. XTM uses highly sophisticated templates to create a project. The template will include everything from workflows, assigned resources, translation memory terminologies, including PM penalty profiles, and it can also be fully automated to start automatically once you push content through, and once that API call goes from the connector onto the XTM platform. So let's say we're Acme and we want to send some content through for translation. We go into our website here, and we select something for translation. So I can select this blog here. I can go for the parent and also select the children. So saying that we want to translate this blog, I will add it to my queue. And this is the connector environment. So as you can see, we already have the option to select a template. And there are multiple templates here. I'm just going to use Sitecore 8.2 template. I can select the source language and target languages, which are also, of course, mapped within your Sitecore environment. Now, template uses multiple languages. I'm just going to select a couple, not everything. Let's go French and German, Switzerland. And you can keep adding languages, of course, there is no limitation. Now, the default behavior for this connector is to create a new project, but if there is an existing project, then we can also send that to an existing project, which is a continuous localization principle, allowing you to keep updating one existing project into the XTM system. And you benefit from having one project with only the deltas being updated. Any existing translation memory matches will be presented as ICE matches, in context exact matches, or super perfect matches, or leverage matches. But in this case, I'm going to create a new project. And I'm going to call it webinar. I can also set a due date here. So let's go with next week, set the time. Now, as I mentioned, I selected the parent item here, but I can also now select any sub-items. If that page contained any sub-items, I would be able to select that too. And on the Sitecore environment, I can select components and the respective sub-items. Also items that refer to the selected item, so reference materials. And I can submit the pages and the respective child pages in the same source file. And of course, the connector automatically copies the final layout, so when the target content comes back into Sitecore, it's already set up as the original source. Now I can add this to my queue and send it for translation later, or I can simply click send for translation and initiate the project now. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send for translation. So connector kicks in now and prepares content to be sent for translation. As you can see, job is ended and we processed many units. Now on the Sitecore environment, I can see my translation in progress. I can see the progress of my translation here in my translation queue. So this is the project. As you can see, webinar PM. These are the two languages. Status is now new, and if I refresh the list, it should change back into progress. Send to send, and we already see the progress of this language here because it's been translated before, and we're using also machine translation in this case. So now we are switching from the Sitecore environment onto the XTM environment, which will be used for all three connectors, because as I mentioned, this is one system connected to multiple CMSs. So this is the XTM environment, for those of you who are not familiar. I'm logged in as a project manager and administrator, so I'm a power user. I'm essentially in God mode, have full access over the system, and I can see any project coming through. Now, most importantly, in XTM, we separate project containers in a unit that's called customer. So essentially, a customer in XTM is a translation memory, terminology, and configuration repository. It might be called a customer, but it's not a living entity. Essentially, it's a container containing all those settings for each of your content type. And in this case, as you can see, we have multiple customers here, each one specific for that connector. So in this case, we would have a customer for Sitecore. Again, you can have multiple customers and you can use multiple customers to separate your content in XTM, even from that Sitecore connector. So if you have multiple types of content, you can use a different customer for that content. You could have Sitecore type A, type B, whatever you want to call your content. You can separate that and it'll have its own units here. So as you see, we have Sitecore 8.2. Going back to our project list, if I refresh this, I should be able to see my project coming through. As you can see, it's here. I see English neutral as source language. The target languages are here. I have one source file and a total word count is here. So if I open the project, I can see the metrics breakdown, providing information how many words are pushed through on a language level. So we have 307 words and all of them are going for machine translation. Now, of course, if we had a translation memory for this project and terminology, you will be seeing that here, and you will be seeing nice matches. We already have one from my previous tests and from other webinars. And for friends, I haven't assigned any resources. This can also be automated. I can assign resources beforehand. So I could always send that to these resources here and start a project. Now let's quickly see how our integrated CAD tool, the workbench, looks like. So if I select a language here, I can open the workbench here, and I can also do that in the visual mode. So with XTM, you have both the benefits of a TMS, a translation management system, and an integrated computer assistant translation tool, so a CAD tool. And this is the CAD tool for XTM. It's a workbench. As you can see, we have a visual mode, allowing you to see your content as it should be in its actual form. And you can perform changes and see that change take place in real time, providing you the best available option for in-context review. So our CAD tool, essentially the visual editor in CAD tool, is what you see is what you get environment. You get to see exactly the changes taking place in your file type. So let's say we have translated our content and we're satisfied. The whole process goes through, it finishes, the project is completed, and then it gets back into Sitecore automatically. So I'm going to finish the project now because I'm a PM and I have full access rights. So the project is finished. We get a notification from the system that the project is now finished. As you can see here, status is finished, and I can go back into Sitecore and refresh my list here. And now I see that the project is finished. It's 100%. Both languages, both files are ready. Now, this can also be automated. I can automatically import any finished project using an API call, which can be set for time interval. So whenever you want to check for new content that's ready from XTM, we can configure that, and a call can be sent on your set time interval, or I can manually import that, which is what I'm going to do now for the purposes of this webinar. So now XTM is requesting, actually Sitecore is requesting the content from XTM. The API call is running and import should take place. And the content is back into Sitecore. So just make sure I have the content here. I'm going to switch to my languages that are translated. So let's go from English to French. It'll take a while. We'll have so many languages. Yep, we have 21 versions of the French content here. And if I want to see my content, the latest type, it's this one. So this is how Sitecore can fully automate your content localization through the XTM connector within XTM. That's saving you an immense amount of time and resources simply by using the Sitecore connector. Now, as we mentioned before, that imaginary company we're talking about today, Acme, doesn't have any other process of sending content from additional systems like AM. And they want to send content through the AM connector, and they want to specifically translate InDesign files. And they're using AM Cloud. So let's go into AM Cloud here, where we see how the connector is integrated and allows any company to push content through to XTM. So in the AM Cloud, the connector can be configured on cloud services. And in those cloud services, essentially, we integrate packets containing dependencies on your cloud service. Once that is configured, the connector is available here in the configuration. Let's quickly go over the settings. So this is sort of like a look under the hood, looking at the back end of the connector. As you can see, we have some endpoints that needs to be connected to XTM. Once they're connected, make sure that the connection is there. Again, we're using the customer ID, so the customer entity from XTM, because this is where we're sending the content onto the XTM side, and our template. We can also have some advanced configurations here for a preview generator. So we also have a visual editing mode within the XTM environment. You can select how the pages can be sent, either separately or in batches. And we can also use callbacks to have some monitoring tools inform us about actions taking place within the AM environment. So let's say you have notifications on your Slack, you can use a callback here to receive notifications when the workflow is transitioning or when the job is finished or the project is finished. So with that said, and we have our connector set up and configured in the system, let's go and create a project and push some InDesign files over into XTM. So we'll go to projects and create a new project. By the way, this isn't the only way to create a project within the AM environment. It's more flexible. It's extremely flexible. You can create it from other parts of the AM environment, straight from assets or any other type. We're just going to use here the project creation. So we need a translation project. Again, I'm going to call it Webinar VM, not the most imaginative name. I can set up a due date. I can select the owners here. So I'm going to use XTM demo for the owners, the experts channel. And in my advanced settings, I can select source languages and target languages. So let's go with English and German, Germany, and Greek. The configuration path lets the AM environment know which connector will it be using. So you can have multiple versions of the connector there, and you can use different configuration paths. So in this case, we're going to use a weekend site. Again, in the AM environment, you can also use machine translation. So in this case, you use Microsoft, but for us, you would have to use human translation. So this is with the XTM connector. Additionally, you can also set the content for delivery when the target content gets back into the AM environment, if it's going to be automatically approved for translation, so it's going to be approved and ready for publishing, or if you want to manually approve this. So I'm going to deactivate this option, and we'll see what happens when the content gets back from XTM. So I have created a project, and it should appear at the bottom of my list. Or I can quickly open it from here. So I have two jobs here, but I have no content. So for me to add some content, simply open the job, and I can add assets. In our assets now, we do have InDesign files, and we have an IDML and InDesign file. So I'm going to select the InDesign file. So we have a translatable asset here, as you can see from the path, and now I'm going to do the same, adding it for the Greek target language. Again, come here, select my assets, find the InDesign file, and send it on. So when the user has selected all the content that needs to be sent over for localization, come here and simply start the project. You can also request a scope, which sends the initial call to XTM, provide you with a scope of the job. And I can do the same for my Greek project as well. As you can see, status is already changed, and this is now committed for translation. We update the page. If I refresh that, second project should also be committed for translation. Now again, we return to the same environment, to the same XTM instance, because that's also connected with our AM connector. If I refresh my projects, I can see my project coming from the AM environment. It's already created, where we have the metrics breakdown here, because we're using the project template for the AM Cloud. I can see the breakdown here, 400 words, and in my workflow, as you can see, this is already started because this template is fully automated. So I have also set it up to start immediately. So the PM doesn't even have to come in and manually start the project. And everything has been pre-assigned to my colleague, Andres Ljungström. So let's have a quick view of how the content looks like in the workbench. So once I enable the visual editor, the InDesign file will be rendered and we can see the preview. Same principle as the previous file. The visual editor in XTM works for the following file types: HTML, XML, InDesign, Data, Microsoft Word, and PDF. The difference is for the InDesign file with the other files that we will need to install also an InDesign server, which comes with an additional cost. Other than that, the preview is similar to the HTML file. Occasionally, we will only need to find some fonts to actually configure the preview up to your standards, but the principle is the same. Again, I'm going to finish the project now from the XTM side. Not for all languages though. I'm going to finish it only for one language so we can see the option to approve or reject the translation. So let's finish for German. I can move the step forward as I'm project manager. I'm also requesting this step to be finished. If I go back into my project now and refresh the view, and I can open the content coming back. Should be able to see this in ready for review status. And now it's ready for review, so I can either reveal this in my asset, so I see how it looks like. And if I'm satisfied with my translation, I can accept the translation and move on for publishing. Or if I don't really like the translation, I can reject the task and send it back to XTM. So this has been now rejected. And what happens now is XTM will trigger the last step of that workflow again, because this now came back from AM saying, we need this to be translated again. And of course, this can take place as many times as required until you get the best available quality of your translation. So this concluded the round trip from the AM Cloud connector. Again, this is one of the most powerful connectivity options XTM provides you. Essentially, the AM environment can push any type of content onto XTM, and it can provide you with a variety and a huge flexibility of translating and localizing content using the AM Cloud instance. And our final option today would be HubSpot. So let's say Acme wants to send some mail material or any other blog site that they want to localize, and they want to localize it automatically using a connector. So our HubSpot connector can be found on the HubSpot marketplace. You simply open the marketplace, go into the apps, search for XTM Connect, and install the app. Once that is completed, we will also provide you access to the HubSpot admin panel, and we can make you an admin user where you can configure more users. So you can be an admin and also a connector user yourself. So in the connector user type, we will need you to connect to an existing XTM user within the system. So for that, you would have to have a user within the XTM system. And once you have that connection, you will select your customers, default customer, and templates again that will be used in the connector. Now, these are all the default templates. Of course, we can expose more templates and more customers in the system. But just for the initial configuration, we would need you to set up a template and a customer in XTM. And also, you can enforce the user and template settings for the connector itself. So let's say we have an email that we want to send over for localization, right? So we have this test email here, and we have it localized in Greek, which was a test I did a couple of hours ago. And say there's a new version of the email, and we would like to change something. Let's see how the email looks like. Let's try that again. Okay. Oh, apparently I cannot edit it. All right, then let's go and create a new language version of that. Apologies for that. My knowledge of HubSpot is not as deep as any other connectors. So the connector environment is here. So this is a standalone external server, which is sort of like a middleware between HubSpot and XTM. And in here, you have the options, as I mentioned, to select customers. It's beyond the default customer that we set up in the admin panel. You can have only any other available customer in the system. Templates as well. You have source and target languages, which are also mapped against the HubSpot environment itself. So here we can localize blog posts, emails, landing pages, and forms. So the latest one I did was a Greek email. I'll translate that into Greek. That we can also do for landing pages. And in the connector, you can also see the actual layout of the landing page here. So let's take this test page for translation. Let's see how this looks like. Close this view here. Right. So we have this test page and we want to localize it, create a new language version. Again, you can come here and provide the ubiquitous project name for this webinar. This is webinar VM. I will select the customer, which is again the HubSpot customer, containing the configuration for a HubSpot connector and the HubSpot template. My source language is English, and I'm going to create a new version in Greek and a new version in, let's say, Japanese. Let's go some languages that I speak. Icelandic, Japanese. There we go, Japanese. And again, you can also add this to an existing project in a continuous localization scenario, if that is available. And I can set up my due date. Let's go for the 31st. And I select this and send for translation. So the chosen content is now successfully sent for translation. I can see that in my queue. So I see the Greek project and the Japanese. They're available here. Status is sent. So now I can switch from my connector environment back into XTM and see the projects I sent for translation. Again, let's refresh the page view here. Here's a project from HubSpot. It's already created. I have the metrics breakdown as well. Workflow again is based on my template. Apparently there was no resources selected for this language pair, but I can do that as well here. So let's see the Japanese version here in the workbench. I'm going to open the workbench here. Enable the the visual editor, and I can also see the page in the visual mode in my translations as well. In this case, we have hidden text. But again, it's the same principle as all our other connectors in the visual editing mode. So once I've set up my project, I can finish it and deliver it back into HubSpot. So let's do that quickly. Now I receive the notification the project is finished. So I can see here, I can go into my connector panel and refresh the list. As you can see, it's 100% finished. It's automatically imported into HubSpot, but in the rare occasions where you need to manually import it, that option is also available to you. And if I go here and I select pages, what's I think those test pages here. So website pages. Oh, that was a test page. Okay. Right. So apparently we have to create new website pages. Let's do the same thing again for the landing page quickly. So by the way, this will simply add a number to the same title, so it will be the same. If we have the same project name. So let's send this again quickly. Just so you can see how fast this can take place. I will have the project here and just going to finish it. Okay, so let's refresh the view here. See if this is done. Maybe I moved too fast for the connector, I guess. There we go. Sometimes people tend to move faster than the APIs. Let's see now about the Japanese version. Again, maybe I have moved too fast for connector to push content back. And let's manually import this. Okay, it might take a few seconds for this to be updated. If it doesn't, then well, it had to happen on a live demo, I guess. But essentially, this is where you'll be able to find the Japanese version that was imported now. And that would conclude the round trip all the way back to HubSpot. Okay. Interesting. Apologies for not being able to show you the Japanese version that came back from the connector, and for the Greek that wasn't able to be sent. But essentially, this would be where you would have the version of your page here, same as I have with my emails. If I come into my emails here, which is a project I did a couple of hours ago, we have a test email here, and this is the Greek version of that email. So in that note, which wasn't the best that I expected, this concludes our today's presentation for the powerful connectivity between XTM and multiple CMSs, allowing you to have a holistic approach of all your organization projects within one TMS, utilizing the automation provided by our connectors and our API set. And with that, we can go into our Q&A. You may use the question module within GoToWebinar to ask any questions. I'll wait for a couple of minutes. If there are no more questions, or if there are any questions now, you can always contact us at training@xtm.cloud. You can come on and go to our website, xtm.cloud, and use our trial account. You have a free 30-day trial of XTM of the system. See how it works out for your requirements, configure it. You can even actually use it for production for the 30 days. It's up to you. If you want to use the full functionality of the XTM TMS, we'll be more than happy to provide you with any answers if you send us an email. And I would like to thank you for attending this webinar today, and we're looking forward to seeing you in our upcoming webinars. You can find them on our website on xtm.cloud on XTM On Demand. Thank you very much for staying with me at this late time, if you're in Europe or if you're in the States. Have a good day.